pursuit of infinite growth. I'm your host, Nick Federico, and Happy New Year to everybody. I want to go ahead and start this podcast off covering what I learned in 2024, some mantras to live by in 2025, and ultimately how I intend to keep those mantras and promises I made to myself to help to change my trajectory and hopefully yours by the end of the year. So first things first, right? As any year wraps up, I took time to reflect and think about what I've done differently. What I've done differently? What did I learn? And what do I ultimately look to apply more of, right? And of course, everybody starts every new year with New Year's resolutions. I mean, I think there's some statistic that says 70% of people in any given population will sign up for a gym membership, but within 30 days, the remaining 30% are only left, something like that. But the whole idea is, how many times do we make resolutions to ourselves saying, new year, new me, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna be wealthy, I'm gonna buy a house, I'm gonna do the thing, and then you don't do it because life gets in the way. And so, though the new year is a great time for you to ultimately change your trajectory and add in areas that you felt that you were maybe lacking, I honestly don't think it's a great excuse to just use it for when you come into 2025. I think that at any point in your life, you can go ahead and alter where you're headed. But with that being said, I do want to talk about some of the things I learned in 2024. And so one of those, and probably the most important, is we all know I left solar, right? And I went into a corporate America job. In that job, I learned more in 5 weeks than I learned in 16 years of school. Point being, right, experience is more valuable to your growth than studying ever could be. Right? There's another great quote that says, without applying the knowledge you've learned, you're essentially still ignorant. And it's a really good life lesson, because what it teaches, or what it kind of foreshadows, I guess, is that you can read all the books you want. Look, I love reading. Everybody knows I'm an avid reader. However, if you don't apply what you read, there's no point of reading it, right? Because the whole point to read is to gain knowledge. And Alex Hormozi, probably my new favorite, business influencer, talks about how he defines knowledge as the rate in which you learn something. For example, if it takes you a week to learn how to golf versus the guy that takes 3 years, you would be considered a lot smarter. Maybe the same thing you can say for mathematics or whatever sort of subject. But it's how quickly you can pick something up. That's what he defines as knowledge. And I agree with that. I think defining words are so important, which is why when I think about reflecting on 2024, what that means to me is that I thoroughly thought about the mistakes I made, things I was successful at, things I could have done better at, and the things that I enjoyed, right? When I think about those 4 components, I'm able to have a more clear answer to the questions and the thoughts that come into my head. That's why I write them down, and now we have a podcast, which hope you guys like the new background. The brick wall kind of sucked. And these are some of the books I read. Speaking of books, highly recommend all of them. But anyway, it's a different scenery. New year, new podcast view. But when I was at that corporate America job, and even with solar, working at Sunrun, I learned a lot, and much, much more than school ever taught me. Now, I've gone on rants before, but I'm going to keep this concise. School is great if what you're doing, you end up actually applying in the real world. But from what I've heard, seen, and experienced myself, most of what I learned in school did not ever directly correlate to what I was taught in the real world. Finance, business, economics, many, many different things. Relationships, communication. I'm a comms major, for God's sakes. So, moral of the story is, understand that you can read and study all you want, but unless you go apply what you've learned, you're not going to get the actual feedback loops or the experience necessary to grow, right? And the pursuit of ultimate growth is all about growth. And how do you grow is not just studying, it's not just reading, but it's applying what you've learned. So that always stuck out to me. The second thing that was probably the most profound thing that I learned in the last year was, you'll never regret going after something new or unknown, but you will always regret sitting on your ass and doing nothing about it and wondering. For me, there's a couple of things that I think about this. One is changing jobs, right? Going from solar to corporate America. 2 is finding a girlfriend, long distance, and we're coming up on a year now. And I would say 3, even when I did dry January back in last year, which I'm now doing again for 2025. So anyone that wants to join me, comment down below, dry Jan. But in all seriousness, those 3 areas are just some points that I want to cover. And so the first one, let's just talk about is the new job. So I was only there for a couple of weeks. However, I had been doing solar for 2.5, 3 years. So to make that jump was really scary, and I thought about it for many months before I did it. And I talked about this in more depth on the prior podcast, so you can check that out. However, what I learned in those 5 weeks gave me that itch that I felt like I needed to scratch. For a long time when I was doing sales, I felt like, man, there's got to be something else out there. I got to try something else. There's got to be a different way to sell. And I knew there was, but I'd never experienced it. After now going and experiencing that, I have a whole new appreciation for door-to-door sales, which I'm going to cover later on. But I know I don't like corporate America. It's not for me. People that do it, I have the utmost respect for them because I did it for about a month and a half. Not much time, but enough to at least get the experience. The amount of experience and clarity I got by doing that new corporate job that was way the heck outside of my comfort zone, way out of my domain, way out of my expertise in anything I'd done prior in my life, was also extremely satisfying to know, cool, did there, done that. I don't like that, right? Company, wish them the best, but that's not for me. I'm not gonna sit and do that job for 40 years mindlessly. The second area is my girlfriend, Sarah, which I've talked about. She's been on prior podcasts, love her to death. That one's a really big one to me because anyone that knew me prior to meeting me in San Diego, even probably when you first met me in San Diego, I was a big player. I had a lot of fun. Every college kid goes through those degenerate periods, right? Any normal college kid, honestly, where you're drinking, you're partying, and you're trying to hook up with girls. However, it takes a man to find a woman like Sarah, right? Little player Nick would never have the opportunity or the chance to even take Sarah out on a date because I wasn't mature enough. This last year has taught me more about love and maturity and relationships and communication with one person than I probably learned in, I don't even know, 5 years of sales. Obviously sales is huge, but when you have a partner or a girlfriend or a wife or a husband or whatever it is, in order to make it work, it takes a lot from both sides. And not only that, but we were seeing each other once a week for almost a year, right? There was other things that were kind of stipending our relationship. They were out of both of our control. And complete 180 from what I used to do and the guy I used to be and the thoughts I used to think. What I learned from that and why I'm so glad, and we're coming up on a year at the end of this month, is that me betting the dice and rolling the chips on being in a relationship, being with Sarah, being committed, once a week, being able to see her and still being absolutely committed, the communication being a huge element of keeping the relationship growing and being a better version of myself so that I could be a better man for her, was worth every penny. Every 6 days a week I don't get to see her, right? And now it's getting better, but we've also earned that. And now I have a whole new perspective, which I always talk about why it's so important to really reflect on things that were worse when you get to the next level where things are better, because you'll always have gratitude. I mean, if I'd see her twice a week, I'd be stoked. I'd be shitting myself. I'm like, I get to see her twice a week. Most relationships, because we also live about 100 miles away from each other, hour and a half. If you saw each other twice a week, and you live in the same city, that's like a failing relationship. So I have such a perspective and gratitude that I get to see her more, right? I get to spend more time with her. You can apply that to anything, to your wife, kids, family, hanging out with friends, whatever it is, but don't take the time that you have with people for granted. And to kind of sum back up the point about you'll never regret doing something new, but you always regret not doing it. Yeah, I definitely would have regretted not taking the risk on going way outside of my own freaking economic or sphere of physical proximity to meet a girl like Sarah, because they don't come around often. And then finally, dry January. So last year I did dry January. It was the first time that I'd ever decided to do dry January. All right, we're doing it again this year. And it's only 30 days, right? However, if you're someone that's like me, that likes to drink and have fun on the weekends, I've gotten a lot better as I get older, but I still like to have fun. I still like to drink. Dry January is a great time because it was able to allow me to reflect It removes what you think you are sedating yourself with, whether that's confidence, stress, anxiety, whatever it is, right? People drink for different reasons. Obviously to have fun too, but typically you take it out of your life for even 30 to 40 days, you're gonna have a lot more clarity about the things you need to fix in your life, things you're doing right, and most importantly, you're gonna be way more productive, which is kind of ties in with one of my other mantras, which we'll get to later, about not being self-sabotaging. But by doing those things, right, I didn't regret not drinking for 30 days. In fact, I was glad I did, right? It gave me clarity, even for a small part of the year. And it actually showed me what I could be capable of doing if I had stayed on that path longer, which maybe I will this time. I don't know. We're going to find out. 30 day at a time, right? We're doing dry January again. And then finally, another lesson I learned is that door-to-door sales in particular, or any sort of direct sales, provides way more value than just monetary compensation. Way more value. I heard a podcast today from my buddies up in Chico, and they were talking about the absolute gift we have to ultimately go ahead and grow in not just your personal development, but grow teams, change families' lives, become a better version of yourself. And direct sales, solar is what I can speak on since that's what I've been doing for the longest of my career, gives you an opportunity to not just care about yourself, but to help other people along the way. Recruit, train, retain, grow, build teams out, build squads out, create an actual brotherhood or sisterhood that is not very common in today's corporate America. I can say that for a fact because even working in corporate America, I noticed people were not as close. You're not going to find the same sort of bond in a direct sales job as you will in most, keyword most, not all, I haven't worked in all of them, corporate jobs. And the reason why that is because when your only way to eat is for you to sell, right? Not that you just clock in and clock out, but you actually only get paid if you are good at the skill. Well, if I recruit you, I want to see you eat. I want to make sure you know you made the right decision. I and everybody around me is going to help you. And that's what I've always felt everywhere I went. People want to help people. They want to help themselves, especially when it's a literal sink or swim job. You don't get paid for working 5 hours on the doors. You get paid when glass goes on the roof. And so because it's a completely different ball game, I think that's why you have skin in the game more than a regular job. The camaraderie is phenomenal. And more than the camaraderie, the self-development, I mean, I just think about my buddies that I met at Sunrun and back at home, and to see how much they've grown is incredible. You know, I remember when we were all the same little drunk idiots partying on the weekends, and now to see the things they talk about, wanting to buy a house, invest, you know, real estate, seminars, books, like it's honestly really cool and inspiring, especially when you've seen someone come from the same level as you and propel the way that the people that I'm thinking about in my head have. And so these are some of the lessons I learned in 2024. Extremely grateful for the lessons that I've learned, for the people that I got to meet, and the things that I'm able to take with me to 2025. Now, for 2025, we have 4 mantras that we want to live by. And when I mean we, I mean me, myself, and I, okay? And what these are things that I've noticed in my life that I can either improve at, I'm horrible at, or I'm good but could be better. So basically good, bad, or ugly. But ones that really stick out, not the ones that are kind of hidden in the cracks, that I've been able to self-diagnose. Sure, my girlfriend could probably diagnose a couple more. Anyway, but so first things first for me, and once again, this podcast is more of like a vulnerable reflection video, but at the same time, a way for me to document my life, and hopefully you can take some sort of feedback and apply it to your life. But I'm by no means telling you how to live your life. So the first thing that I'm looking to start implementing is to stop self-sabotaging my weekends. Now, I've talked about this a couple times in prior episodes, but what I mean by that, to be more specific, is, you know, I eat very clean during the week. However, when Saturday would roll around, pizza, alcohol, fast food, ice cream, and then Sunday. Oh, well, it's Sunday, right? It's my day off for sure. Nobody works Sunday, not even people in solar usually. Let me eat more ice cream, pizza, blah, 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 play video games. Just very, very, very unproductive time. And I did the math on this because I was curious. I know what it is with 5.5 days. I actually don't know off the top of my head with 5 days, but if you go ahead and take 2 days out of your week to be unproductive, So 5 divided by 7 or whatever, 5 divided by 7, it's less than 70%, I'm almost sure. Could be wrong, but it's somewhere around 70%. Okay, that's C. That's barely passing, right? Not to go with the school analogies because we all know how I feel about that. But the idea is by giving yourself maybe one day or a half a day or once a month to celebrate, 1, it's more rewarding, 2, it's more fulfilling, and 3, you have longer durations of success where you catch on fire, where you get hot in whatever sort of area you're trying to improve at, because you're not having so many restart days. The amount of times that I would freaking crush Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe even Saturday, but then Saturday night get blackout drunk. This is, not as often now, obviously. I'm in a better headspace, but still, for the analogy. Blackout drunk, gamble, lose a bunch of money, wake up on Sunday, sleep in, be hungover, go back until Monday, not fully recovered. Sabotage. Self-sabotage. Insanity. And I think a lot of the reason why I was doing that was because I was literally prioritizing the weekends. Right? How do I crush the week for the weekend? Even that framework is always going to collapse on itself. It should be, and what it's going to be in the future is, how do I crush the week so I can have an even better weekend? Whatever that is, right? But we're not here to self-sabotage anymore. I was subconscious about it for now. Now I'm very conscious and aware of my tendencies, which is why, on that, a couple things that I did this year, or I guess last year, to set myself up for a good year. Anyone that knows me knows I love to gamble. I have a bookie. I'm not going to name drop because no need to. But I canceled my account with that bookie because I'm like, you know what? I'm gambling. Yes, some weeks I win, but some weeks I lose. And making a bet on anything that's not going to directly pay me is stupid. Now, sure, maybe once in a while when I'm, once in a blue moon, maybe I'll in the future decide to do something like that, like make a bet once in a while. But the idea is I need to remove that completely now because it was a distraction. It was causing, this is statistic, research backs this, that gambling, just like porn and other sort of quick dopamine hits, releases a false dopamine in your brain that real things like a long run or sex with your partner or closing a deal bring. Those are hard and real dopamine hits that your body gets a reward from when it does something hard and fulfilling. But gambling especially is false dopamine. You put $100 on black and you hit, well great, you won $100, but you also just triggered and train your brain to feel really good and excited when you win money that you had nothing to do with except for luck. Maybe if you play cards, you're a little bit better, but for most individuals, there's a lot of luck involved. Way too much to be gambling, and that's why I decided to cut it out. The other thing that I did, or I'm in the process of doing, looking probably to sell within the next day or two here, is getting rid of my PlayStation 5. So I also like to play video games. I think every grown man that was in his mid-20s, even you grew up playing it, it's fun, right? Especially after a long day of work, playing some Call of Duty or whatever it is, Fortnite. But once again, I understand that I need to spend more time changing the person I was so that I don't keep relapsing into that person, right? You see those people that it's a new year, but it's the same them, and it's been the same them for 30 years. That's a problem, right? It's a big problem. So by removing 2 little vices, right? No video games, selling it, I remove it from my environment. I'm someone that gets pretty extreme about stuff when I decide to do it. So no, getting rid of the PlayStation and getting rid of the gambling, getting the bookie, and then also doing dry January. What that's going to do is it's going to leave me a lot less time to screw around and waste time, and a lot more time to read, study, work, find a new career, which I'll cover in a little bit. But it removes all of this like dirt. I always think of like a window, right? And you have all this shit on it, right? You got video games, you got alcohol, you're single, you got women, whatever, dating apps, social media. The boys want to hang out, and what's important on there gets wiped away. Sorry, what's not important on there gets wiped away, and what's left on your windshield is what's important, such as quality time with your loved one, family, fitness. And doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's for sure going to be rewarding and worth it. And I'm going to do a podcast February 1st just to tell you how much of a change I feel in my body, mind, life. I can guarantee it's a lot better than the version I am now. And I'm not in a bad place by any means. I'm actually doing really well with my own sort of day-to-day life, but there's so much more untapped potential that I'm realizing. I'm already 26. It's a whole nother story, but I'm getting to the point now where, yes, some people might call it young. Once again, it's all perspective. Some people may call it old, depending on how old you are. But I'm at a point now where I really feel like I cannot waste any more time. I can't. I'm 26. I'm going to be 30 in 4 short years, right? Before you know it, you're 40. Next thing you know, you're 50. I have to put my foot on the gas and just go hard. And go hard in all areas. Fitness, I'm going to get jacked. Finances, going to get wealthy. Relationships, right? Build those with my family and my girlfriend and people that I meet in my business endeavors. But I need to go hard now because there's a reason why time is priceless. It's because you don't get more of it. Right? You can get anything else in this world: cars, women, alcohol, houses, real estate, which is houses. I don't know. I said that twice. Experiences, travel trips, pets, whatever it is, right? Movies, whatever the hell the thing is, concerts. But you cannot get more time. And I'm really understanding that I've probably burnt a little bit too much. However, that's okay. We recorrect and we move forward. Second mantra I want to live by is to always be curious. Something that I know I should definitely improve on, and is something that will always help, is just ask more questions, right? Be more thoughtful. Sometimes being thoughtful doesn't mean you have to even get really deep at somebody, but just ask people questions. When you have a conversation, look them in the eyes with an intent that says, hey, I actually care about what I'm asking you. If you ask someone how their day is, mean it when you say it. Like, hey, how are you doing today? Smile. And then on the kind of more grander scope of things, when you're selling, right, asking more questions will always get you the answers that you're looking for, right? In a relationship, maybe you and your partner are having difficulties in some area. Asking more questions will be able to uncover those. Doesn't mean those questions are easy, but they're important. So for me, in 2025, I'm going to be more curious. So always be curious, always be more curious for those of you that are curious. It's better to be consistent than to be effective. Now, this is one that I forgot who said it. I think it's Alex Hormozy, but I think this is such a banger of a quote. And it's probably gonna ruffle some feathers or get some mouths to drop open, because it's like, be effective. Why would you not want to be effective? I want to make this crystal clear. If you had a choice between being consistent or being effective, I would always choose effective. And he talks about this too. Here's why. Being consistent every day over the course of time will inevitably breed results, success, new skills, everything else that you're looking for, because you just keep doing it day after day, day after day, day after day. Being effective is great, but take, for example, the gym analogy earlier. How many people that are overweight are effective for 5 days? They go to the gym for 2 hours, 5 days, they lose 10 pounds, they're stoked. But they're not consistent. And the next week comes around, they go 3 days. The next week comes around, they go 1 day. A month in, they stop going. So they were really effective in the short term, but they were extremely inconsistent in the long term. The idea is, right, you want to have a mixture of both, consistency, and then you become effective over time. But if you have a choice between just being consistent or just being effective, always shoot for being consistent. Because there are days in life where you just go through the motions. You go to the gym, you don't want to be there. You go to work, you don't want to be there. But by doing the things over and over, it's allowing you not to have any dust build up or any rust build up, and you're continuously staying fresh. And who knows, maybe that day you didn't want to go to the gym, you learn a new workout, or you find something that excites you, or you go to work and you close a deal you didn't think you were going to close that day. The people that get lucky are the people that show up. Grant Cardone talks about that too. If you show up, you will be lucky by default because you're there. The only thing that's guaranteed is if you don't try, you will never succeed, right? But if you try, eventually you will succeed. And then the last thing that I do think I do well at, however I can always do better, is play devil's advocate, right? Anyone that's heard the terminology knows what it means, but for those of you that don't, pretty simple. Even the devil has advocates, meaning even the worst people in the world have people that support them. And that's probably a horrible analogy. I should probably reframe that. The message of the little mantra, though, is that before you judge someone, right, put yourself in their shoes. Just start putting yourself in more people's shoes. You get in an argument with your ex. You get in an argument with your girlfriend. Ask her, put yourself in your shoes. Well, why is she getting upset? Am I coming home late? Right? Am I drinking more than I should? Am I not present when I'm with her? Or, your boss yells at you, right? Flips out. I had this guy at my old job. I won't name drop him, but quite a character. And he freaked out on me. The corporate job, he freaked out. And he was screaming at me. He's like, "Have you ever done sales? Blah, 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 blah." And just going in on me. And obviously, in the moment, I was very frustrated, but I was very present and very unflustered because I understood, hey, this is this guy's business. Whether he's right, wrong, or indifferent, this is his entire business. I'm just someone that works here. By no means did you ever let anyone disrespect you, which I didn't, but I at least understood why he's acting like this, right? You can understand somebody and not agree with them, but the key thing is that you understand them, right? Why someone acts a certain way gives you a lot more insight into why they do what they do, so that you can see it in the future and predict it better. And then two, you have more understanding. It doesn't mean you agree. What he did was actually kind of a dick move, honestly. But I understood where his stress was coming from, and it wasn't me. It was everything else around me. So put yourself in someone else's shoes, aka always play the devil's advocate. Now, a couple things that I want to end this podcast with is, I guess this would be like the fifth mantra or motto to live by, which is addition by subtraction, right? Typically when people are trying to change who they are, right? It's the New Year's topic to talk about change, is typically people are thinking about, how do I add things to my life, right? How do I get more wealthy? How do I get the new job? How do I make more friends, get the college degree, get the promotion, whatever it is. But ironically, addition by subtraction is very, very obvious. Overlooked and obvious is how I would state it. The only way that you can have addition is by subtracting. The only way you can add things to your plate is if you remove things from your plate, so that there's more room to add things. This book, Dream Ownership by Jocko Willink, phenomenal book, I've read it like 2 or 3 times, talks about discipline equals freedom. Same thing as addition by subtraction. If you want to have more freedom, you need to have more discipline. If you want to eat pizza on the weekends, then you need to get up earlier and hit the gym harder than you typically would, right? If you want to go ahead and take off on a 6-day vacation, then you need to have more discipline to crush your job for the next quarter so that you can earn that right to go ahead and have that vacation, right? If you want to stay out late once a month with your buddies and go drink and party, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to have the discipline the other 29 days to get up and go to bed at the same exact time. That's the whole idea, right? I still, like we say, I'm still trying to practice this myself, but the principles are very straightforward. So, with that being said, that's why I am doing Dry January. That's why I'm selling my video games, my PlayStation. And that's why I closed out my gambling or bookie account. By subtracting money that I don't need to spend, time that I don't need to waste, and toxins that I don't need to put in my body, I'm going to be in a way better headspace in 30 days from now. Now the key is to get into a rhythm, as we talk about consistency versus effectiveness, where I continuously do that. And I will continue to make these podcasts because I want to be transparent. If I fuck up, I'm going to come on the podcast and say I fucked up. Because one, I do this partly so that I can document my own life and figure out, I can always look back and maybe show my kids one day what dad did and how dad screwed up and how dad's just like every other human that's trying to figure it out. But two, I hope that this can inspire you or give you some sort of feedback that you can apply to your life. And if it works, great. Tell me about it. If it doesn't, I'm also here for the feedback, right? I do sales for a living. I mean, it's rejection all day, every day. So I'm here for that. But with that being said, this year, I have a couple goals myself that I'll even tell you guys on the podcast because I want to be that transparent. So what I did is I broke down my goals into 4 categories, right? Fitness, finance, self-development, and career, okay? So fitness, right? We want our body weight, my body weight by the end of the year to be around 175 pounds. I have not been 175 pounds since high school, I think, maybe first year of college, probably not though, even then. Right now I'm like 195, I'm a little porker. But all jokes aside, that's something that's important to me. Second is body fat. I want to be under 8%. I'm not sure what I'm at right now. I'm gonna go get my BMI, body mass index, weighed tomorrow at my gym. So that'll be clutch. Third, I want to eat clean 5.5 days a week. The reason why I say 5.5 is I want to eat clean until at least Saturday afternoon. And even when I decide to eat a little junk food, it doesn't mean pizza, ice cream, and cookies. Maybe it's just pizza, and then that's it, or just ice cream, right? Or just cookies, but not all three. So moderation. And then 8 hours of sleep. Holy shit, buddy. Nothing more important, at least to my mental health, and just day-to-day focus than getting rest. Some people only need 7, 6, some people need 9 or 10. I think 10's a little overkill, but somewhere between the 7 and 9 range is important. For me, I function well on 8 hours of sleep. So 8 hours of sleep is what I am continuously looking to do, and we'll be able to get better from that. Second, finance. So I need to get out of debt. Right now I'm in debt with the credit card company known as Chase Bank. Yes, I have an account. Also have a check-ins account. I have definitely in the past spent more than I needed to, and that's why I have debt. However, the good thing is that that's my only debt. Thank God I'm blessed enough to pay off my student loans, my car loans, any other credit card that I own, but it doesn't matter. I owe money to Chase, thousands, need to pay them off. I want at least a minimum of $20,000 in my savings account, which depending on my career should be absolutely doable. But here's the thing. When you set these goals, you need to think about something that's realistic. However, there's a level that's going to push you, right? But a lot of times I think people do, me included in the past, is I say, I'm going to make $1 million this year. And you can. But the likelihood of that happening 1 year into a career, not super high. So guess what happens if you make $800,000? You're stoked, but you're like, damn, I didn't hit my goal. Or what happens if you make, let's call 50%, $500,000. You're like, fuck, I missed my goal. Yes, it pulls you harder, but you missed your goal by a shit ton, right? However, if you say, hey, I want to make $200,000 this year, and you make $200,000, you're gonna feel so good because you knew. I should reword this. If you typically make $150,000 and you say, I want to make $200,000, so 25% more. Well, that's going to push you, but it's not going to overkill you, but it's doable enough that when you hit that, and maybe you hit it early in the year, you're going to have a feedback loop that's going to make you want to keep killing your goals. But what I see a lot of people do, I've done this in the past myself, is you set your goals so high that you miss all or most of them, and then you feel like a fraud. Don't do that. Also, because this is not no mediocre podcast, don't set them so low that you hit them 2 weeks in. Set them far enough out where you know that it's going to take a little extra effort. It's going to be a little bit harder than you'd like, but you know deep down you can get this done this year or this month, whatever the timeline is, right? Also, there's a great quote that Tony Robbins says, people underestimate what they can do in 5 years and overestimate what they can do in 1. Why is that? Consistency, the compound effect, another great book. People start to compound over time. And since we're on the year of goal setting or month, these are important. So I got my month right, or my year right here, month right here, family in my calendar. It's important too now. Okay, third thing, coming in under my monthly budget, I need to learn how to save more. I made good money doing solar, great money, especially as far as America goes. You make way more than even successful people. But I did not know how to save that money, because when you get that money, you spend it. If you're like me, you're not responsible in that area. So I want to make sure that I come in under my monthly budget, which my mom has been great at helping me be my little accountant, telling me, where I could be saving money here and there. Obviously, I've done my own sort of numbers, and my girlfriend as well, but trying to find a support system to keep you accountable is important as well. And then the other thing on the finance is I want 5K invested in the Robin. So I broke these down into 4 categories. Each of those categories have 4 sub goals. So 3, self-development, I want to read 12 books. These I've all read before, so they don't count. They need to be 12 new books, or books that I've read, but I need to reread them start to finish. Because anyone that tells you they learned a bunch from reading one book one time is full of shit. You need to read a book like 5 or 6 times before it really starts to click with you. Which actually Kai Williams, the president or vice president of Sunrun, talks about. He calls it his book rotations. I heard it in a podcast one time. I'm like, it's pretty good. He has like 3 or 4 books that he just rereads all year. That's also really powerful. So it doesn't matter, but 12 books start to finish. It's one a month. The average American reads 1 book a year. Less than that, actually. So read 2 books and you're killing it, dude. Released 24 episodes on my podcast. So, right, we're gonna drop this one probably later this week. That's literally only one every other week. It's not even that consistent, to be honest. I should probably have made it higher, but whatever. Once again, it's going to force me to twice a month drop a podcast. Number 3, I personally do what's called reflection videos. So at the end of every week, Sunday's over here. I did this for a long time, and I got kind of lazy with the consistency, again, of how often I was doing it, especially in 2024. And it's basically like a 5 to 10 minute video about what happened that week. It doesn't even have to be life-changing. It's just, sometimes it can be a 2-minute video. Here's where I'm at, here's who I talked to, here's what went well, here's what went wrong, here's what's going on in my life, here's what's giving me anxiety or stress, here's an area that I'm crushing. Cool. Boom, I have a folder for it in my iPhone. You can create it. It takes 2 seconds. Every year it's labeled something new. I've been doing it since 2019, so I have 6 years of just videos of Nick talking to a camera. No one sees them but me. I do them sheerly for me. And once again, I do this like I do the podcast, but more on a more personal level, so I can pull back this footage and see how I've developed over time, right? And then I need to listen to a new business or self-development podcast every day. Lately, I've been listening to Alex Hormozy. Anyone that is into business, or even sales for that matter, or even self-development, it's a great podcast called The Game. Highly recommend it. Check it out. Number 4, right? We talked about career. As of right now, right? I don't have my career figured out, right? I left Sunrun, went to this new company, the corporate company, not for me. Left it. Right now, dabbling in what am I going to do next, right? Do I go back to solar, or do I try something completely different? I have no shame or insecurity saying that, because that is talking about the itch I was talking about earlier, wanting to scratch. It's exciting to me, honestly. The way I look at it is it's a can't lose opportunity. I either go find a new career that I crush, or I go back to solar and I crush that. I can't lose. Framing is everything. Another book called Pitch Anything by Orloff something, but check that out. It talks about framing. It's a great book. So one of the things is to get a minimum of 1 promotion in my first year with the company. If it's Sunrun, maybe I go back and become a squad leader or DM. If it's whatever the new company is that I decide to work for, it's get a promotion there. Also, as far as what I've been doing, because in case people want to know, I have been applying like a fucking madman to a lot of jobs. I think I'm at, since I started applying, I think I've applied to around 100 jobs. Have some interviews lined up, so that's exciting. Keep you guys posted on that. But once again, it's consistency. Every day I apply to like 10 to 15 places. Every day. Jobs I'm qualified for, jobs I'm not qualified for. Typically, they're all sales related, but some of them aren't. What do you have to lose? That's how I look at it. I want to run a team under me, so whatever company this is that I get a promotion at, which is going to also come, maybe that's what gives me to run my team, is I want to be able to run my own team. So get a promotion, run a team. Number 3, crush personal metrics. So whatever the metrics is for the sales rep or the account executive or whatever my job title is, I want to crush that. Month by month, I'll get more specific, but right now I don't have the career set up, so I'm not going to give myself an unrealistic goal or numbers if I don't have any numbers to work with. And then clear for money-wise, right? And this is where it gets kind of depending on my job. If it's not solar, I want to clear 140K my first year. If it's not solar. If it is solar, I need to go back and add whatever apostrophes or asterisks. I'll think of it. I don't want to just come up with a number on the spot, but it's probably going to be way more than 250,000. So anyone that watches this, like I said before, a little solar pitch to you guys, you're not going to find money like that anywhere else. You're not going to find it. It's a gold rush. So it's incredible money you can make. So anyway, those are my goals. That is what I have planned for 2025. I really appreciate you guys watching these podcasts. Hopefully the background drop is a little better. I kind of wanted to change it up a little bit and switch up the looking at a brick wall, because no one likes that. So I got a tripod. We're going to get more dialed. I'm going to get better lighting. I'm going to get cameras. I'm actually not even using the podcast equipment either. This is all off of the Apple products. So I got an iPad here and an iPhone there. And it honestly sounds better than my own podcast equipment. So if you want to help me with podcasting, anyone that's on the technical side, the tech or the IT side of things, hit me up and we can chat. Cooper's getting tired. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Betterment Podcast, the pursuit of infinite growth. Have you guys have a great 2025. We're going to crush it this year. It's going to be a phenomenal year. It's my favorite word. My girlfriend always tells me it is, because I know it is. And yeah, take the risks. Just remember that. Anyway, thanks, guys.